Have you ever got scammed? What happened? Not me, but a customer at Best Buy. A customer came in, demanding to speak with a manager regarding a TV he had ordered. The manager he asked for was Tammy, and we had no managers by that name, nor pick-up orders for this customer in our system. I asked for more details. The customer had responded to a Craigslist ad for an unbelievable price on a TV. The seller claimed to be a manager at our store and instructed him to make payment by purchasing gift cards for the asking price, then send pics of the back of the gift cards to the seller. The customer did all this, then was advised the TV would be ready for pickup at our store. Needless to say, there was no TV for him. He demanded to speak to an actual manager, who kindly informed him that he was out of luck. Best Buy employee convinced me I needed one of their $60 HDMI cables if I wanted Xbox games and action movies to look good on my TV. This was probably 10 years ago, and I didn't know much about electronics back then. I'm still pretty salty about it. In the 90s, my friend got all of these letters saying he was a part of a contest and he just had to keep mailing letters in to enter the drawing. The wording they put in the later letters was something like, "You've made it to the final round and congratulations, we are now prepared to write you a check for $10,000. All he had to do was call a 1-900 number that charged $2 a minute. It took him about 10 minutes to navigate the automated menus once they told him he was a winner, and it ended with, "And you have won." Drum roll. $1. Someone once tried to use my credit card to book an online trip. My credit card company called me and we had this conversation. "CC Company? Hello Mr. My last name, we've noticed that the trip to Cancun you just purchased online was slightly over your limit. We've gone ahead and bumped up your limit so you wouldn't have any issues." Me? I didn't book a trip online, could I get more information? Note, I had purposefully kept a low limit because I know if I had it at my disposal, I would abuse it. They had called about 5 to 10 times asking me to raise my limit. "CC Company? There must be some mistake, are you sure you didn't book this trip?" Me? Yes, I'm sure. "CC Company? In that case, would you like to open a fraud investigation into the purchase?" Me? Yes, please. "CC Company? Parts of the conversation I forget. Well, okay, we apologize, is there anything else we can do for you today?" Me? Yes, I would like to cancel my credit card. Instead of raising a red flag at a purchase over my limit and calling me to inquire about it, my credit card company automatically bumped up my limit without my consent and called me to tell me the good news. Edit. Changed phrasing. I was 15 minutes ahead of an ex-GF getting to the bank to lock up my accounts. She came in and tried to clean them out. The bank stopped her and called the police. She talked her way out of it. Someone tried to scam me by creating a Craigslist ad giving away things that I left outside my business. He even got some of my staff to help him load it onto a trailer by showing them the ad. Yeah, I was on vacation and didn't have my phone on. The scammers called my house and my sister was house sitting for my wife and I. They told her I was going to be tried for an undisclosed criminal charge if I didn't pay them something like $900 for the case to be dismissed or I would be arrested or served the next day. She tried calling me and I didn't answer as I was on vacation. I left her one of my bank cards so she could buy food and stuff since she was doing me a favor. She paid them with it as she thought it was real, and I am not a saint, so it was believable at the time, and this was a while ago, before these scammer tactics were well known. I was so mad as I noticed a charge when I checked my online banking while still away. Worst thing is now I guess I am on a list of people who have fallen for this, and they call me all the time. Yes, so I work in a daycare over the summer, and I ordered this hair wax online that changed the color of your hair for the day. As I use hair wax every day, I was like, this would be so cool for color week, and paid $53.92 for all 5 colors they offered. The next morning I woke up to my whole bank account being drained. Luckily I called my bank and they were able to fix it and send me a new card. But that is not where the story ends, because I actually got the product and after using it once my hair started to fall out. So yeah, I just shaved my head that summer. Short story from my childhood, someone tried to steal my working NES. Late 80s, I was about 9 or something. Had a friend call me up, invited me to his house so he could clean my NES. Thought it was strange, but he was very insistent and I didn't want to argue. Brought it over, he started cleaning the mess, asked me to get something from the kitchen, a butter knife I think. I went, found it after a few seconds of searching, brought it back. He said he was finished, left the NES on top of his TV, and left the room to get something. My NES looked very different. Stared at it a bit, it was missing a crack that had always been there. Looked on the floor where his NES was, it had the crack. Fucker tried the all switcheroo. I tensed up, didn't want to argue with the kid, confrontation wasn't my strong point. I just switched them back as quickly as I could. He was gone for a while, actually had a lot of time. After he came back, told him I had to go, thanked him for the cleaning, went home. After about 30 minutes, he called my house again. He asked me which NES did I take home. Told him I took mine. He asked again, yeah, but did you take the one on the TV or the one on the floor? Just told him again, I took mine. He sounded defeated as he said all right, bye. Younger guy in a shirt and tie next to me at the gas station. He asked me for a few bucks for gas as he was on his way to a job interview. Said he'd been unemployed for a few months, and this was sort of a dream job opportunity. I ended up filling up his entire tank and wished him luck on the interview. I saw him there twice a week for the next 3 months, always in a shirt and tie and always talking to other patrons. He eventually tried to scam me again a few months later, and I reminded him that he had already got me on that line and asked I if he had any more. He said he could tell me about his dying grandmother he was trying to go see on the other side of town, or about how he left his wallet at his office because he rushed out when his daughter's school called and told him he need to pick her up because she was sick and throwing up everywhere. Then he paused and said, "Sorry man," and got in his car and drove away. Never saw him again, but I assume he just moved to the next gas station down the street. One time I woke up to 10 $100 charges in microtransactions for a mobile base building game. Never owned or played the game and was overdrafted $600 plus. Will the bank tried getting the money back? Not that much of a scam, but still. When I was an 18-year-old college student about to hop on the train home after classes, I was approached by a nice woman with her kid in a stroller. She told me her wallet had been stolen and she needed to buy a ticket home for her and her kid, so she was trying to gather enough money. Typical excuse, but I totally bought it at the time and gave her money for one of the tickets. I wasn't able to give more at the time because I had no more money on me, so I even felt a little bad. Until I saw her at the same spot the next day, feeding other travelers the same fucking story. Got white van scammed when I was 18 out front of Best Buy. A guy or two show up out front of a store like Best Buy with stereo equipment, TV speakers, projectors, etc. that in reality aren't worth more than the packaging. They proceed to tell you they already delivered everything to hit their quota and they are X amount left over, and if they bring them back to the warehouse, they will lose out on just selling them because someone else will. They follow this up with stock sheets and magazines showing retail price of said projector speakers at some outrageous price like $2,000 and say you can take them for anywhere between $1,000 to $200, depends on how far you get them down. Then you get them home and figure out they either don't work or are the worst quality products ever made. Stupid me lost $350. This was back in 2008. This scam still happens today, so beware. Pretty sure someone's trying to scam me on eBay right now with an item I purchased. Edit to add situation. They're being crafty about it, but I got a little suspicious and found out their game after a little research. The scam they're trying to pull is that they sent me a small gift in appreciation of my purchase, which in this case was a bag of candy. This gift was not mentioned in the listing, but in a message sent after I bought the item. If I go to eBay's resolution center and say I didn't receive the item, they'll put the tracking number in for the candy, and eBay will take their side since it will be marked as delivered. I now know that when I file my complaint I've got to put it as item not as described. I'll give it until Wednesday before I file a complaint though. Last time I saw an iteration of this thread, the top comment was guy who hired a moving company and they straight up stole all of his shit. Was looking for a job and got a call for an interview and went in, and it was some MLM for like vitamin juice or something. I was sitting in the front and was polite, so I sat through the video and then started to walk out, and that's when they started being super pissy. I said I don't spend a lot of money without talking it over with my wife, and the lady said, well, I guess we can't do anything if you're not the man of the house and your wife wears the pants. When I was 11, my favorite Disney Channel star tweeted a link to take an IQ test and see how your score compared to hers. A credit card number was needed to see the results, so I put in my parents'. Of course she had been hacked and it was a scam, so I had to go sheepishly tell my parents I accidentally charged their credit card. They were not happy. Just trying to get trimmed armor in RuneScape. I bought Anthem on launch. Big mistake. Never been scammed myself, but my mum almost got scammed by one of those fake Norton support numbers. Luckily I found out before she paid anything. As for me, the closest thing I've had to being scammed was being catfished. Man, that was rough. Almost, several times. The scariest one was when I was on my husband's laptop, which was a quite fancy and expensive one that he had gotten from his dad, so I was worried that anything would happen to it if I used it. This stupid pop-up came on that said that I had to call Microsoft tech support because my laptop was compromised. There was a phone number on the screen. I called immediately. They were being vague on the phone, and my anxiety was already heightened by the thought that something might be wrong with the computer, so I was feeling pretty numb. I was about to give them access to the computer to help fix the problem when my good senses kicked in, and I realized it was a scam. I told the guy that I was gonna hang up and that I'd talk to my husband before having him fix the computer, and I could almost hear him shrug when he said okay, bye then. So obvious that it was a scam in hindsight. Scammed on eBay by a 99% rated seller. I bought a $550 PS4 from him back in 2014 or 2013 when it was first out. Delivery date was passed and nothing received. Dug deeper into his profile, found out that he sold a bunch of $1 wires and built his rating that way before going for the scam. I got my money back thanks to eBay buyer protection. It was my last eBay transaction, too. I pre-ordered a game from GameStop, and the clerk told me there was a $5 pre-order charge that would be taken out of the price when you picked it up. Went to pick the game up and had to pay full price. Hope you enjoyed scamming a 9-year-old that took a week to earn that precious $5 from mowing lawns, asshole. Almost, but I caught it. Me and my ex-then girlfriend were looking for a new apartment as our lease was coming up. There was a post on Craigslist, and the place was exactly what we had been looking for in the right amount. The landlord was a couple from the area but were on a mission trip out in Malaysia working with sick kids, and that they weren't able to get us in for a showing, but we could drive past the house and get a look at it. Within the next few hours of contact with them, they got really pushy and were pretty much demanding us to make the decision and to send them $150 deposit to hold the apartment for us. My ex was the one doing all the communicating since I was at work, and when she was telling me all of this, red flags started going up as soon as they were trying to get money out of us. I told my ex that it was most likely a scam if they weren't going to allow us to walk through the apartment and are trying to get a deposit out of us sight unseen. She ensured me that it wasn't a scam and gave me all of their info so I could send the money. They wanted a Western Union money order sent to some place in Nigeria. I burst out laughing and told her that it was definitely a scam. We got into a big argument and I had to go down the list of things that I saw wrong with the scenario. 1. Not letting us see the apartment before signing a lease. 2. Making us send a deposit without letting us see the apartment. 3. Sending a wire transfer to Nigeria. 4. They are doing mission work in Malaysia but want their money transferred to another country. My ex went quiet after that. No, but I have accidentally scammed a troll. I was playing Rocket League with a couple of friends and I was trying to trade some items with people on the community page. Anyway, I got a reply from this dude and I invited him to a party in the game. We entered a trade and I put in my stuff I wanted to trade and he was showing me stuff that he could give me for my items. And he kept accepting the trade and canceling it like an asshole, but after about 5 times of this he waited too long to cancel the trade. I got pretty much everything in his inventory. For those of you wondering how much it was worth, at 4 heatwaves in-game currency, which is a fucking lot, or like $150 worth of items if I chose to sell them. If you're reading this, GAMERBOY 3320, lick my balls. He knocked at my door and was asking for Matthew. There's no Matthew here. Oh, is he the one living downstairs? I was supposed to sell him some smokes. I actually don't know. You're smokers too, would you like to try one? I got this amazing deal. Why not? He was really convincing, and after a little while, I ended up going to cash out $200 while he was going to look if Matthew was downstairs. He then came back and brought me to his friend's house. Knocked on the front door, no answer. Okay, I'll pass by the back door. Give me the money, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Obviously that never happened. A week later, I saw an article about a guy who died after falling over a balcony near my house. He was scamming people with cigarettes and got into a fight. The worst one is probably when I was desperately applying for jobs after graduating. Hadn't found a job for months in the finance sector and just applied to be an admin assistant at a small local exchange. Looked up their website and everything looked legit. The hiring manager spoke fairly fluent English. They said they were interested in hiring me for a position that leveraged more of my education. I was stoked, almost 1.5x the pay, and the workload was much more my style. They wanted some identifying information like my driver's license and passport. Didn't think too much about it. Scanned it off and sent it to them. They told me everything looked good and they wanted to do a phone interview. I asked them why not in person, and they told me I wasn't at that stage yet. For some reason I felt a bit suspicious, so I looked like the address on their letterhead, which was a legit business park in my area. Called them and the phone lines were dead. Called the building owner and they told me that the property was vacant and had been for almost a year now. At this point I knew identity theft would be possible, so I just went into a full-blown panic getting everything exchanged. Learned a valuable lesson that day. Didn't lose anything, but fuck if my personal information is floating around somewhere. I was young and some broad approached me in a parking lot saying her boyfriend left her and she lives a state away and needs money for a bus ticket. I gave her $10. I've actually gotten that same scam twice since then, and each time I offer to buy the ticket at the bus station and they told me to fuck off each time. I've had my debit card number stolen twice. Once I was charged for over $700 in women's shoes. I'm not a woman. Another time, just a couple of months ago, I had 5 different $100 transfers on Western Union at different convenience stores in my city that I'd never visited. But the funniest one was the one I actually fell for in person. The guy on the street in New Orleans told me, "I bet you $10 I can tell you where you got your shoes." "You're on," I said. "Okay. You got 'em right there. On your feet." I gave him the $10 out of pure admiration. Not a big scam, but after a concert I had to go back home via bus train. While waiting, a homeless dude offered me a bus ticket for like $3. I knew it was no good and I already had a ticket, but I bought it anyways cause I'm a big pushover. Club Penguin account when I was in 2nd grade. He offered to switch accounts and I agreed. We gave each other our passwords and of course his was not real. Mine was Candy. Next thing you know I'm crying. I wanted a new PS3 controller and decided to spend a bit more at the local used game store instead of going to GameStop. Sony was running a sale on them at the time. At GameStop, they were $45. So I went to the local game store and told them I needed a wireless PS3 controller. They pulled one off the shelf and said it was only $40. Everything looked good. Hot dog. I got home and opened it. The entire wireless thing was completely missing, none of the lights worked, and the serial number matched up to a common Hong Kong serial number. I went back the next day and was like, WTF is this? They told me, oh, you didn't specify you wanted the Sony PS3 controller. I showed them the receipt, the box, the controller. All of them said it was a Sony controller, but it wasn't. They refused to do anything but sell me the other one for $55. I tried contacting BBB and shit but no luck. I emailed Sony who said they weren't an authorized dealer, so nothing they could do. Lesson learned. I wrote them bad reviews and let them stay there until they went out of business a few years later. Edit. I did not just contact the BBB. Yes, I know they are a scam. Yes, I knew they were a scam at the time. I contacted a bunch of places about this issue. I only named BBB for storytelling purposes. The scam that almost got me is actually brilliant. I was selling a car on Craigslist and got a call from this guy who seemed super interested. He followed up by text asking if it had a clean history. Next text, he sends me a link to what appeared to be an alternative to Carfax, asking me to get a history report for $30 before he drives out. I was literally putting in my credit card info before I paused to think the website might be fake. Turns out it was only registered with ICANN that day. Totally fake. I was hit by a quick change artist when I was younger. I got confused and he got like $150 from the register. Back in 2006, when I was 18, my friend and I were in a hookah bar, and we met this guy who said he ran this pretty popular online radio station, and he could give us a program on it. He had a flyer with a website and phone number on, so he seemed somewhat legit. I was still kind of skeptical about it, but my friend was really excited to do it, and she convinced me we should do it. He said we had to pay like $35 to buy the slot, which I thought made sense at the time, so I put up the money. We were supposed to meet with him again the next day so he could show us how to do everything. My friend was really excited and we spent the rest of the evening putting together a mix CD of what songs we wanted to play. The next day, we went to meet him again at the hookah place and he was not there. We called the number on the flyer and there was no reply. I asked an employee about him since he said he often hosted the program there. They said they had never seen him before yesterday. It was only $35, but at that time it was a decent amount of money for me, and the worst part was I was actually excited to do a radio show. He said he was a Nigerian prince. Quite a few years ago, I was supplementing my income by doing digital photograph editing for models. While I did receive a handful of bizarre requests, like the one from a guy who seemed like he was trying to augment his dating site profile, most of my clients were straightforward and honest. That state of affairs lulled me into a false sense of security, and it left me open to getting scammed out of hours of work. The individual who ultimately ripped me off was billing herself as a plus-sized model and an entrepreneur, and she wanted me to touch up some images for her business's website. To this day, I don't know what that business actually did, given that the page in question seemed like it was just a clunky invitation to meet the woman at whatever nightclub she happened to be frequenting. Before you ask, no, she wasn't a prostitute, she was just a self-proclaimed sexiest soul sister in the city who was apparently pretending that she was some sort of celebrity. Still, she offered me a decent amount of money for what should have been a fairly brief project, so I took the job. Now, I know that I should have been wiser about this like I implied, I was a little bit naive, but after I had finished the pictures, I sent them over to the woman for her approval. She said that she was happy with them, then asked if I would edit a few more, saying that she would double my fee for the trouble. Once again, I agreed. But when the time finally came for me to get paid, things started going downhill. The first excuse I received was that my client was waiting for her latest paycheck to clear. Not long later, she claimed that she didn't have a PayPal account, then said that she'd send me a check via standard mail. A couple of weeks passed after that, and when I finally asked where my payment was, she responded by saying that it must have gotten lost in the mail. Finally, when I asked her to send me a money order with a tracking number, she insinuated that I was trying to scam her by attempting to trick her into paying me twice. Needless to say, I was a little bit irritated, not least of all because her excuses didn't make sense. That same woman reached out to me again about a month later, too, with a request for an animated banner. I told her that I would be happy to assemble it, but that she would have to compensate me for my previous work. And as she had done before, she said that she would double what she already owed me if I would finish her project first. Fortunately, I had learned my lesson, so I wrote back to her by stating that while I appreciated her generosity, I'd really need upfront payment this time around. Her response was a long-winded message which suggested, amongst other things, that I was trying to scam her, that it was hilarious how she had scammed me, that I was not particularly well endowed, that I had probably pleasured myself to the images I had already seen, and that she was going to sue me for copyright infringement. She signed off by promising that I would be hearing from her lawyer in the very near future. I can only assume that his correspondence got lost in the mail, too. TLDR. A self-proclaimed celebrity tricked me into working for free. Okay, so I got scammed, but it was worth it in the end. I've told this story before on here, but here is goes. So one day I was driving home from school and I stopped to get some gas. I successfully finished my last final, and I'm in a hella good mood. While I'm pulling out, this lady holding a baby and with another kid beside her approaches me and motions for me to roll my window down. I comply since generally women holding babies aren't dangerous characters. She gives me this sob story about her family traveling because her husband finally got a job and her welfare check running out, and her being desperate to buy food for her children and yada yada. Her story sounded pretty well rehearsed, and I noticed that she had picked me, the young naive child, out of the whole crowd of people at the gas station. I'm suspicious, but I give her $10 because you never know, and it's just $10. But yeah, something definitely felt off and I didn't feel good about giving her the money. So next day comes and I'm at my restaurant hosting job working the morning shift, 20 miles away from this gas station, and her fat ass walks in. We see each other and I see the most memorable look of "oh fuck shit, you have to be kidding me" Jesus on her face. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure I looked like the Cheshire Cat on his birthday. Me being a host, sits her pathetic ass down and goes off to bus a table, and the moment I leave the front of the restaurant she skips town and makes a mad dash out the door. I don't think that wide grin left my face for an hour. That moment was probably the best thing $10 could ever buy. But anyways, moral of the story. Don't give money to well-rehearsed strangers at Sheetz. TLDR. Gave a scammer who claimed to need money to feed her children, and then they gave me an accidental little visit at work the next day. I went to a fancy private college. Paid more money for an worse experience, worse education, and a degree that employers think less of. Gave this girl $6 for some cigarettes. I didn't get my cigarettes. But that was back in high school, and I don't touch those things anymore, thankfully. Almost fell for a Craigslist scam when I was in college. I was looking for a summer job to help out with tuition, and I found what seemed to be a great opportunity on Craigslist for a part-time job as a sort of driver. Basically, this guy living in Florida was looking for someone to drive his mom, who lived in Chicago, around a couple of days a week. I had a car and didn't mind driving, so this seemed like a pretty sweet gig. We exchanged emails for a bit before I had a call with him. During this, he starts bringing up about how his mom actually want to use her car, which he would need to ship up from Florida. Then he starts going on about a money order and how I will be reimbursed in my first check, and that's when I was like, nope, sorry. Not falling for that and said goodbye. I learned that day that if a job on Craigslist seems too good to be true, it probably is. If you tell me who you like, I'll tell you who I like. I was 16, now 18, looking to make my first business online. I found someone of Fiverr that could help me out, and to be fair to them, they did help out a bit, creating logos and helping with designs. However, it was too good to be true. They eventually went missing for months at a time and not completing tasks at all, saying they want to show me when it's finished. Pro tip: ask for progress checks. Over the time they were with me, I must have given them over £200, $250 US, which is a lot to me working as a waiter at the time. There were many signs there. Her Facebook account had different people on her different profile pics. She claimed these were friends or family. The name on the PayPal account was not hers at all, in fact was a Nigerian name. Her account on Fiverr got banned a few times. She said this is because you are not allowed to offer external chat from the Fiverr chat, which I believed. She even included screenshots. Her Fiverr profile was from Nigeria when her profile pic was an Asian lady, and she said she lives in Chicago. When I called her out for being a scammer, she said she had a disease, I think something similar to cancer. At this point, I was actively looking for someone else for my project as I've had enough. I used the name on the email and found the guy that scammed me. I am sure what to do with this information. He is a university student. I guess I could ruin him if I wanted to, but it's not in my nature to do so. I also want to make sure the actual scammer didn't use this guy as a fall guy for his operation. I reversed image searched the pictures he used in his Facebook profile, and it turns out he has at least 30 accounts using similar pictures. The guy was scamming so many different people. He was using a French singer in his profile, turns out. Was waiting to get FAFSA money. Got a call telling me they had the money and needed my account number to deposit it. Gave account number. Felt weird. Closed account immediately. Didn't lose any money. Got FAFSA money later. Found out scammers can acquire lists of people who apply for student aid. I typically didn't fall for the "let us make your child a star" type things, but there was one that had success. We actually had some really nice headshots done, and they made it clear they weren't a talent agent so much as a marketing thing. It was basically them getting companies who would send them types they were looking for, and they'd send back headshots of their clients in a bulk. If they liked you for a gig, they'd contact you. The problem was, they ended up signing on more people than they could afford due to the success rate of some of their clients, and they went out of business without informing us. I'm not sure if my mom got the rest of the money back that covered the months we paid for in advance. She didn't want to tell my dad because she didn't want him freaking out every time I auditioned for another job. Back in junior high I always wanted to have a PS3, so I looked for it in the internet and found one with a good quality and low prices. I talked to the guy on a phone and we had an agreement. I sent him the money and he sent me a picture of sealed PS3 box with my name written on it. I waited for a week and my PS3 hasn't come yet. I call him again and he's not answering. I call him again and again until I realized I just got scammed. My mom didn't know what happened and I'm too scared to tell her. Note, I didn't use my mom's money. I've been saving my lunch money for 6 months for that PS3. I still haven't gotten the luxury of having a PS3 to this day. Yep, on Kickstarter. One of the West Memphis Three, some guys wrongly convicted of a double murder. Bo did a documentary on it, did an appeal to write a book. He raised about $30,000, including funds from yours truly, and 6 years later, no book.